Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I want to tell you a soft and peaceful story about springtime, quiet adventures, and the kind of little moments that gently stay with you forever. Whether you're a child, teen, or grown-up, this story is just for you. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin. It all started with the first true spring breeze. After a long, sleepy winter, the town of Maplewood began to wake up. Little green shoots poked through the earth. Windows were opened just enough to let in the smell of grass and blossoms, and in the corner of every room, sunlight settled like a golden cat. Spring break had arrived. Now, most of the kids in town were buzzing with plans: beach trips, theme parks, city visits, but not me. This year, I was staying behind. At first, I felt a little disappointed. Everyone seemed to be going somewhere exciting, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do for a whole week in the same quiet town. But something inside me whispered that maybe, just maybe, staying home could be special too. On the first morning of break, I woke up slowly, no alarm clock, no rush. Outside my window, the cherry tree was beginning to bloom, its pink petals glowing in the morning light. I opened the window and let the breeze wash over me. It smelled like dandelions and damp earth. Downstairs, Grandma was already humming in the kitchen, making cinnamon porridge in her favorite yellow pot. The whole house felt like a warm blanket. "Got any big plans today?" she asked, passing me a steaming bowl. I shrugged. "Not really." She smiled. "Then it's the perfect kind of day for small adventures." After breakfast, I slipped on my softest sweater, laced up my walking shoes, and headed outside. The town felt different now that school was out, quieter, slower. I walked past the library, where birds had built a nest on the windowsill. Past the bakery, where the smell of fresh scones danced in the air. And finally, into the woods at the edge of town. The path was dappled with light, and tiny wildflowers lined the trail like confetti. I didn't have a destination, I just wandered, letting my feet choose where to go. That's how I found the hidden pond. It was tucked away behind a curtain of tall grass and willow trees. The water shimmered like glass, and frogs blinked lazily from lily pads. I sat down on a mossy rock and listened. To the birds, to the wind, to the silence that wasn't really silent at all. And in that quiet moment, I felt full, like the whole world was slowing down just for me. Like staying behind for spring break might turn out to be the best gift of all. The next morning began with birdsong. Not the loud kind, but that light, fluttering chorus that sounds like the world is smiling. I got dressed slowly, choosing my soft green cardigan and slipping a book into my satchel, just in case I wanted to sit and read under the trees. Grandma waved to me from the garden as I headed out. "Don't forget to notice the little things," she said. I nodded. Lately, it felt like the little things were the most magical of all. I took the same winding path back to the pond, where yesterday's breeze still danced gently across the water. The frogs blinked at me again. Maybe they remembered me. I sat on my mossy rock, pulled out my book, and read until the sunlight reached the tips of the trees. Then I noticed something I hadn't seen before: a tiny bridge made of stones crossing a shallow part of the pond. On the other side was a little clearing surrounded by tall ferns. I carefully stepped across and followed a small, curved trail lined with pine cones. That's where I found the cabin. It wasn't a full-size house, more like a big garden shed with ivy climbing up the sides and daffodils blooming around the porch. The door was slightly ajar. I peeked inside and found shelves filled with jars of feathers, pebbles, pressed flowers, and old notebooks with careful, faded handwriting. It was someone's nature journal hut. Every page held drawings of butterflies, little poems about the sky, and notes about wild mushrooms and bird calls. There was even a sketch of the pondan, the rock I'd sat on. I spent hours flipping through those notebooks, quietly enchanted by the unknown person who had loved this place. Whoever they were, they had seen the world with wonder. They had taken the time to notice. When I got home that afternoon, I told Grandma about the cabin. Her eyes twinkled. "Sounds like you found one of Maplewood's secrets. Not many know about that place anymore. Do you think I can go back?" "Of course," she said. "Sometimes the best places are the ones that don't need big signs or tickets. just quiet hearts and open eyes. That night, I began my own little journal. I drew the path, the frogs, the ivy-covered cabin. I wrote about how the air smelled like moss and sunlight. And at the bottom of the page, I wrote, "Today felt like a secret just for me." The final 2 days of spring break felt even warmer, like the whole world was leaning into the season. Bees hummed lazily in Grandma's garden. The trees swayed in the breeze like they were waving goodbye to winter. I could feel the week slipping away, but not in a sad way. More like the way a sunset fades into stars. I went back to the cabin in the woods one last time. This time, I brought a little basket filled with things I thought the mystery journal keeper would have loved. A pressed violet from our yard, a smooth pebble shaped like a heart, and a short note. "Thank you for seeing the world the way I want to see it too." I left the basket on the porch and sat for a while with my sketchbook. I drew the cabin, the path, the sunlight on the pond. Then I just listened. To the wind, the rustling leaves, a bird calling out from somewhere high in the branches. I didn't need anything more. On Sunday morning, the last day of break, Grandma and I walked to the town square together. She wore her straw hat with the sunflower ribbon, and I carried a tiny bouquet of wildflowers I'd picked just that morning. We stopped by the bakery and picked up cinnamon rolls warm from the oven. Then we sat on a bench near the fountain and watched the town stretch and breathe. Some kids were running around playing tag. Others were helping their parents set up the little weekend market. A dog barked happily in the distance, and a group of elderly neighbors sat under a tree, sharing stories and knitting scarves. It all felt just right. Later, when we got home, I sat on the porch steps and opened my journal. I flipped back through my pages: the rock at the pond, the frogs, the daffodils, the cabin, the basket I left behind. It had only been a week, but it felt like a small lifetime. Not because I'd gone far, but because I'd gone deep, into nature, into stillness, into noticing things I hadn't noticed before. That evening, Grandma made chamomile tea, and we watched the sky turn lavender as the stars began to blink awake. Pickle the cat snuggled against my legs. The breeze carried the softest scent of honeysuckle and earth. "Did you have a good break?" she asked. I nodded. It wasn't what I expected, but it was better. And I meant it. Because sometimes, the best adventures don't need airplanes or oceans. Sometimes they're made of mossy rocks, quiet pages, and the courage to be still. Thank you so much for joining me for this story. If this gentle spring tale made you smile, or brought you a bit of peace, I'd love for you to like, subscribe, and come back soon for more cozy stories like this one. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and remember, some of the most beautiful journeys begin right outside your door.